Hey everyone, finally we're here. This is the internal structure video that you've all been waiting for. I've had a lot of members asking me about internal structure. How do I trade it? How do I avoid it? And most importantly, how do I be patient and wait for my areas to make sure that I can catch the major moves in the market rather than get stopped out on the fake outs? So first off, this is GBP USD. This is a trade that I gave live on the morning calls when price was exactly at this point. Now, what we can see at the moment from this market, we're clearly in a downtrend. And I'm using this Asia range rather than any previous price action because I'm looking for my intraday position for that specific day. Now, even though we can see on the 50-minute we've broken this previous structure point, on the new day, we've also broken this 50-minute structure point as well. So at this point, we know in terms of Asia, the price should be coming back up to fill Asia high, which is between here and here. All right. Now, again, we then need to find our potential entry area first. So this is just setting up a position, not even talking about internal structure yet. So we know that we have an OB. This is the first OB and void that's created that breakdown to the lows. So in theory, we're looking for price to come back up to this area. We've got to protect Asia high to then wait for price to come back down to the low. So the next step is to then understand, can I cover the highs with a 10 pip stop? Easy, right? And then focus for at least 3% back down to the lows. So that is my first initial thought for the day. So what I want to see is price pull back for the short using structure, lower low, lower high. That's the lower high created in Asia to then remove the downside. So let's play out some price action. Now, one thing I want to mention in terms of internal structure is this. Price can do absolutely anything it wants. It can do this, it can do this, it can do this until we get to our area. Now, I think a lot of people get confused when they see lower low, lower high, right? That's the area that I want to take a short from, but then draw on your session high right here. And then what happens? Price has a little bit of a move and then flies back up into that high, stops you out, and then continues to go in its direction. So in anything that happens in and around this point, you really just want to ignore, unless something drastically happens and we're making a huge new low and we've got a lot of Asia ranges down to the low that we need to then fill or so on. Ultimately, what you want to be doing is sticking with your last major lower high point, because again, even though we've got this low, it all feeds from this highest OB and void that has been printed in the market. So when you get a higher high, higher low, don't then think all of a sudden, right, so now I'm bullish, because you're not. You're still extremely bearish. So don't take those little moves too much into account. Just look for these main swing moves, and then you'll be in a much better position. So, and this is where patience comes into the market. So let's continue to play out price. Now we're coming into the next day. Now, sometimes it might take a few days to come back to these main structure points. So what's happening? So first off, we've had Asia. We've broken down at the low. We know that Asia high is going to be filled. Typical Asia strategy. Price comes up to this, fill Asia high. And then again, we make a little bit of a break to the low. People might be thinking, right now it's time to short from this point. But again, it's not, because price can do whatever the hell it wants before it gets back to our vital area. Still messing around. Now at this point, I would actually have my alert on at this high, because we're getting a lot closer and closer. And again, I did detail this live with members. It was covered on my socials as well. And again, what you want to be doing is trying to target the lows that have been created. And that was initial low that was created in London and retested in New York. So essentially what we're looking at here is a 1 to 7 risk reward with a 10 pip stop. And the most important thing is this as well, is that I can cover the previous Asia high. If I can't cover the Asia high and it's here, then sometimes it's not the best trade to take. So just bear that in mind. A lot of people as well try and have this stop just above the OB. You're going to get stopped out and wrecked so many times on that. So just be a little bit cautious. So that's initially what I'm looking for, right? Price then continues. We have yet again another Asia range. Now, if we open at the bottom, we're looking for price to move higher, which would be then a tap into this OB right here. But we're not, we're opening at the high. So when we open at the high, what we're looking for is price to then come and stab into this OB at the high, then to give us our confirmation. Now, prices come in, we get a wick to the high first off, so indicating rejection from that area. If I just go down to, I'm just going to be honest now, if I just go down to the 1 minute, the problem that you have with your 1 minute confirmation is that whilst we have a BOS here, we have no entry points right up at the high to justify the entry there. So then what we have to do is be a little bit more clever with this and then say, right, so we know in the moment we've got a bearish move, showing initial indication. There is potential for price to come back up to this high here to fill Asia to the left. And then just what? Now, there we go. Prices then come up into this high. We do have a slight closure above this, but again, I mentioned this on the live call with members. I'm not too concerned about that because in reality, because we have this Asia range to fill to the left, we can realistically come here before we dump down to the low. And if it makes it a lot easier, you can draw that on with a session high also. Right there. Right. So now I'm thinking, okay, so we've got that move right here. We've got this. Now, another little bit bullish move coming up to fill that high. Perfect. So my entry is this. Right there. So what's happened is we've had that move above. We've now filled Asia to the left. Bearish engulfing down this candle right here. And so what I'm looking for is price to pop back up to retest the OB to then continue for my move to the downside. And again, in terms of all of this here is the internal structure. Things that you don't need to be too concerned about, because in the grand scheme of things, like I said, price can do absolutely anything it wants. Now, the reason we haven't come back down to the low initially is because we have no OBs and no voids down in this area. The session low has been tested once, created once, retested again in New York. So we've already mitigated that. And then we've just continued higher. But again, for those, and I know this, people again, we've made a higher high. Now we've made a lower low. So are we looking for a bounce from this area? No. Now we've made a higher high, right? And then what happens? We make a lower low from this point. Well, it's not a lower low, sorry. It's a double low, double bottom, which we can then whack on. But then again, people are immediately looking for short positions on the basis that this is the last high and I'm looking for price to come and take this double bottom. Again, you've got to be patient with the areas that are being created because lower low, lower high, this is our true lower high point, and everything in between is just noise. That's our lower high. And then right down here is our lower low. So price, we've got a bearish engulfing. With perfection, look at that, filled that Asia high to the left, bearish engulfing, then look for the price pullback, bang, that's where I'm in, where price has pulled back into this area. Let's just zoom in quickly to this point. Wick back up, and generally you do get a wick back up to retest that area where we've broken. And then from there, I'm in my position, and then price just proceeds to fall to our target absolutely perfectly. So I hope that answers a little bit of your concerns. Those on the live calls, if you've got any more questions, then I can go through those a bit more on the live. However, that is the essence of internal structure. Don't always take into consideration what's going on here. It is all just a little bit of a noise. In the grand scheme of things, it is main structure that you want to trade. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low to the downside. I hope that helps everybody, and I'll be back with another video soon. Take care all.